We are such powerful beings until we decide we're not going to walk in our truth, because our truth is connected to our power. You and your greatest power is you and your full truth. And so you have to ask yourself, are you willing to not experience the highest, most powerful expression of you because you're afraid? You're afraid of what the fallout of your truth will be. Well, I can tell you what the fallout of not living in your truth will be. And it's living a half life.
Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Reikstins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Reikstins. I'm your host, and today I'm joined by my incredible wife and oftentimes co-host, who we love to bring on the Empowered Life Podcast to share very, very deep and powerful spiritual truths and also experiences that we happen to be going through. So this episode was inspired by something that I have recently journeyed this weekend. So welcome to the show, Anniston. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I'm always excited to spend time with you in this space. I have such a soft spot in my heart for the Empowered Life podcast and all of the incredible listeners that we've had an opportunity to meet in the last 4 or 5 years. So let's do it.
Well, I always love our conversations together. Obviously, I interview some incredible people, and sometimes I'll say something like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite episode. But my favorite are always with you, because I love to give people a window into what does it look like to be an embodied spiritual being who is aware of the divinity that is them, aware that every moment is an opportunity, that we're constantly being served in the most beautiful and miraculous way so that we can live and grow and expand. And I think the greatest thing that we can do in life is to walk in the knowingness of who we are. And that in doing so, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a life of just absolute joy and exhilaration all day, every day. It doesn't mean that life is easy all the time. It does mean your life is easier. And I, for the most part, live a beautiful, joyful life with very little stress, very little anxiety, very little fear. And I have those moments where they come up, but they're so short-lived. And that when something really affects me, I have tools to lean onto to be able to say, oh, okay, whoa, like, this is a lesson. Where is it coming from? And that's really where I want to start today's episode. I was interviewing somebody recently. I beg your pardon. I was being interviewed on somebody's podcast recently, and she had made a comment that she had made a declaration on her birthday that she was only ever going to walk in her truth. And it's Elise Archer, and her podcast is just absolutely incredible. It's the She Sells podcast. And I mentioned this because I want you to go and listen to the episode so that you have some context, not only for how incredible she is, the lessons that she brought to the episode, but for this particular lesson. So she had said that on her birthday, she declared she wanted to spend this year, her year, walking in her truth. Now, I had made a very similar declaration a few months earlier. It wasn't over my birthday, but I had said I wanted to start only walking in my authentic self, every area of my life. So I had some business relationships that needed to change. I had some people working as extensions of my team that had to change because they were not integral to who I am and what I represent. And so I decided I was going to be my most authentic self. But having had that conversation with Elise and having heard her say she had made this declaration, she was only going to walk in her truth. In that moment, in the episode, I said to myself, effective immediately, I'm committed to only ever being in my truth. And I made the same declaration. Before she had even finished the sentence, she followed it up with, and I'd already made my declaration. She said, and within 2 days or within days of making that declaration, she lost 2 very, very long-term, very important relationships that had been in her life. And she realized that in that moment, when you make a powerful declaration, it's sometimes, most oftentimes, followed with a really profound shift. And I had already declared, I'm going to be my most authentic self. And then I made the declaration, I'm only going to walk in truth, because I love the way that phrased. And then she dropped that powerful bomb. And it kind of made me sit back and think for a moment like, oh my gosh, isn't that just like the most truest thing? When you declare something, the world is going to shift and reorganize itself to meet and match that extension of you.
It takes a lot of bravery. It really does. And I think that as you were talking, I was thinking about how often, and I'm including us in this, especially myself, how often we negotiate with our truth. And we negotiate and say, okay, I'm really going to stand in my truth in this area. But then in certain areas of our life, we're willing to negotiate that and say, well, my truth is just a little bit too much in this area, or it'll be too much for people, or it's not enough, or it's going to cost, my truth is going to cost me too much. And so logically, your mind will convince you that it's safer to stay in a half truth. And what you don't understand and what you don't see is the energetic cost, right? Not only the physical cost of what it is to be in your body when you are not fully in alignment with yourself and all the symptoms that come from that, which are very uncomfortable and usually look like anxiety and stress and overwhelm and confusion and overworking and over-efforting and all of these things that come from misalignment. But also energetically, we are such powerful beings until we decide we're not going to walk in our truth, because our truth is connected to our power. You and your greatest power is you and your full truth. And so you have to ask yourself, are you willing to not experience the highest, most powerful expression of you because you're afraid? You're afraid of what the fallout of your truth will be. Well, I can tell you what the fallout of not living in your truth will be. And it's living a half life. It's not being fully alive. And I know that when you make a declaration, and Rudi, I know you teach this so much, it's like, just be prepared. Because if you actually follow through, that's not just a vocal declaration that you just throw out and then you have no intention of actually living up to or withholding. But when you put your stake in the sand and say, I no longer will live out of alignment with my truth, it's going to shake some things up. You are literally creating a ripple in the quantum field of what is. And it is going to create some change. So the question is always, are you willing to step into the unknown to get something you've never gotten before?
Hey, it's Anniston Reikstins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new #1 best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
I want our audience to very clearly understand that there is no shame in having lived a half-truth, having settled, having negotiated with yourself, with life, having taken a shortcut, because I fully believe that in every one of those moments, and we've all done them, that we're doing them because we think it's the best thing that we can do at that time. And I want to be very clear when I say that my declaration to walk in my truth is for me to always pick the right path. the one that is less traveled, the one that looks like it's going to be the most challenging. And I don't mean I'm being given an easy opportunity that's aligned and I'm in flow and I don't pick it because it's too easy. I don't mean that. I'm saying that when you want to do something and somebody says to you, well, we can kind of get you there faster if you do this, that's where you negotiate with yourself. That's where you negotiate in your levels of integrity. That's not what this episode is about. We're going to take a little bit of a left turn today to explain why we're bringing this episode to the Empowered Life Podcast, because it's going to make sense to every single one of you in a way that it may not have landed for you in the past. But I want to bring it forward that sometimes we do negotiate with ourselves. Sometimes we do take shortcuts. Sometimes we do opt out of doing the right thing. Maybe it's saying the right thing. Maybe it's admitting to a failure. Maybe it's making the apology. Maybe it's hiring somebody to do something in your business that you know you shouldn't do, but you think it's going to get you to where you want to go faster. All of those things are just opportunities for us to come to a point where we realize that we always have to pick the easiest and fastest choice for us, which doesn't always mean that it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean it's going to be fast. And I explain it that way because the easiest, fastest path from our limited vantage point is going to be, doing something that maybe challenges your integrity. But when you step into your knowing, when you step into your power, when you don't take the shortcut, it actually speeds up the process. Because when we think we're taking the shortcut, we think we're taking the easy path, it actually delays the process. And so when you do take the path less traveled, when you do the thing that's right, I watched something on Instagram this morning, and I won't say who, but a very large podcaster, they posted this morning saying, I want to formally apologize. In one of my episodes, this episode, I made this statement, and I need you to know I was wrong. And I said the wrong thing, and I didn't do my research, and it hurt a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you that you have two choices in life. You can make a mistake and own it, or you can hide away and wait for everybody to forget about it. He goes, and this is me owning it. And then he owned it. And I thought it was so powerful. And my level of respect went up for this gentleman, because in that moment, he did something that was really difficult. He called himself out on doing something that was, again, he wasn't being malicious, but he owned the right path. And I think that is what really moves us forward in life. Today's episode is really about when you make a declaration for something, it can be anything, you're going to immediately be met with the ramifications of that. When you are in a loveless marriage and you say, you know what, I am declaring that I'm committed to being in a loving relationship, you might then find out that your partner wants a divorce. And then you're trying to scramble to put it back together again. And the ripple effects could be the leaving of the relationship. You might be in a job where you are doing something that is pushing up against your soul, your integrity levels, and you might hate it, but you need the paycheck. And you might say, I want a new job. And then you get an opportunity to leave that job, but it's going to be for less money, for less recognition, for less something. And then you choose not to take it. And that's slowing down the process. We think what we're doing in the moment by pushing up against who we are, what is we're doing is going to get us to where we're going faster, but it's not always the case. And I have so many, and I know, Anniston, you have so many stories of when you've made powerful declarations and everything changed. And we either fight the change or we welcome the change. And today I want to talk to you about me making the declaration that I'm only ever going to walk in my truth, hearing Elise Archer say within days she lost 2 very, very prominent relationships in her life because she made that declaration. And by being in her truth, the relationships weren't in the truth that she was walking in, and those relationships naturally had to fall away, although painful. And when I heard that, it really hit me. And I thought, wow, interesting. I wonder what's going to happen in my life now that I've made this powerful declaration. And within about 4 days, I had a very, very painful experience, which happened this weekend. And I want to talk about it because it doesn't always have to be the leaving of a relationship. It doesn't always have to be these, defining moments that hurt our feelings. My pain was more about me having to look in at me. I said, I want to walk in my truth. And so a few days go by, everything is great. I wake up on Saturday morning and Anniston's in the gym, and I walk into the gym to do a workout, and I say to her, something's going to happen today. I can feel it. And she's like, don't put that energy out there. And I said, no, I'm not putting energy out there. I have a knowing. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Something's happening today. And I just don't know what it is yet, but it's like I'm preparing for whatever's coming. It's like I'm bracing. The motor's gone off and I'm just waiting for it to land. And that was the feeling I had, and I carried it all day long. Long story short, we have a wonderful day. We spend a lot of quality time with the kids. And that evening, I'm sitting at home, 8:00 at night. We're watching a movie with one of our kids. And all of a sudden, I sit up and I realize, oh my God, I'm supposed to be at a work function for one of my clients, inviting me to an event. And I had committed to being, and I was supposed to be there at 4:00. And for some reason, I don't even know how, it was on my calendar. Notifications didn't go off. I didn't remember. I hadn't told Anniston that morning. And there I am. I'm in panic because now the high performance coach who says, be in your integrity, always walk in your truth, do the right thing, literally didn't show up at an event that I'm supposed to be at. And everything in my body just went into fear, fight, or flight. I went into an immediate state of panic. Anniston looked at me thinking like, oh my God, I think somebody just died. I can get you to vouch here. I was extremely dramatic.
No, I mean, you looked like the floor just was like completely removed from, like, you turn white. I could tell you were 100% thrown into complete nervous system dysregulation. And fear. It was fear. It was disappointment. It was, just self-blame. You name it, like all of it was going through your mind. And it's because you just couldn't believe that you would allow something like that to happen. And I kept saying, I was like, babe, okay, well, number one, it happened. So there's something for you here. Number two, number one, you're just going to be honest. So be honest, have the conversation. And number three, you get to be imperfect. Like where did you sign a contract that said that you have to be everyone else gets to be imperfect and you have to be perfect? I was like, because number one, the greatest teachers are not perfect. They're human and they're willing to turn around and share their experiences, which is what you're doing so beautifully right now. So continue.
I sat on that couch in that moment and it's like my world was falling apart around me. I didn't attend a work function. I can send an apology. I can explain myself away. And all logic says it's not that much of a big deal. It is, but it isn't. But to me, it 100% challenged the foundations of who I believed I was. Rudi has never not shown up for a work commitment. Rudi would never forget. In fact, Rudi would never even be late. And in this moment, I didn't even go. I didn't even let them know. I didn't even know. It's like I completely forgot. And I couldn't reconcile the fact that I had no idea, the memory, the whole day that I was supposed to be there, and then the disappointment, the judgment, the shame, the ridicule. But I have recently spoken on the podcast about my childhood and my experiences that led me to believe that if I don't perform, people will leave me. And I had committed to working through that. In fact, before I recorded that initial podcast episode, and it's been weeks. And when I said I want to walk in my truth, the universe bent a knee and said, let's show you your whole truth. And that's the point of today's episode, because I asked for the opportunity to be shown, where am I not walking in my truth? And how can I always best walk in my truth? And I didn't lose a relationship. You see, my fear was that in me never performing, people will leave. And that if I'm not the best husband, the best father, the best high performance coach, the best spiritual teacher, the best community leader, the best keynote speaker, then people don't love me and they won't think that I'm good enough. I will walk off stage pouring into people for 8 hours, have 90% of the room in tears, and I'll still walk off stage and I will say, it wasn't good enough. How can I be better? What can I do more? Because I need to perform to have people love me, to have people like me. But the other side of that same trigger is that if I am not perfect, then people won't love me. When I started my public life, I wanted to be the picture of perfection. I never wanted to make mistakes. I always wanted to have all my T's crossed and my I's dotted. And I didn't connect with an audience because people would look at that and say, well, that's not aspirational. And nobody could ever be like that. I remember working with an organization, and I worked with them for years, and a few of the team members over a period of time came to me and individually shared with me, but the overarching theme was people said, love what you teach, but I could never be you because I could never achieve this level of mastery, this level of perfection, like you never make mistakes. And that's when I started to realize, wow, my lack of understanding of human behavior in that context of people thinking you need to achieve a certain level of perfection. That's not real. That's not attainable, and therefore not relatable. And so I started bringing more of my truth into my public life, but I never actually fully gave myself permission, Rudi permission, not the public version of Rudi, just Rudi, the man, the little boy inside, that he does get to make mistakes. And on Saturday evening, missing a very important event and absolutely disappointing my clients and having this experience really was crippling to me because it was debilitating in that Rudi failed. And Rudi now had created a narrative in his mind that his customers or his clients were going to leave him, that they would turn around and forget all of the good work I've done and say, well, this thing you've just done, well, that's it. You're clearly not who you thought we were, and that they would leave. And it was never about the money. It wasn't about what am I going to do if the client leaves? It was about how would that make me feel? What would that mean about who I am as a person? And I remember about an hour after all of this, I had messaged my clients. I had left them a voice note. I couldn't call them. They were busy at the event. And I was sitting there just in my mind with a cup of tea. And Anniston turned to me and she said, Rudi, do you really think that of all the love that you have poured into these people, that they're going to turn around and just disown you because of one mistake, like this one mistake? And in that moment, I actually answered yes. I didn't say it to her. I said it to me. I was like, yes. And then I sat with that and I thought, holy smokes, that's really what I think. And that's when I started to do the work and I dismantled the belief. And the most painful thing was sitting in that because my clients didn't respond to me right away. In fact, there was no response. And the message showed
by design.
red. By design. The message showed red. So they chose not to respond, which I then internalized as, oh my God, they're so mad. And I was forced to sit with that and then to go to bed and to wait until the following morning to get the message. And when I woke up the following morning and I picked up my phone because I couldn't do my first 20 minutes of priming, I couldn't get ready for the day. I had to know, were they mad? What did they say? Did they eventually respond? And moments after I went to bed, there were 2 text messages, one from each of them. And the first text message read, sorry it took us so long to get back to you. We were busy. We only just got back to our phones. It's okay. And we love you, Rudi, with an exclamation point. And it was the most, and I dare I say, heartbreaking message that I've read. Because somebody just absolutely in that moment loved me, who didn't need to, who didn't have to, chose to. They didn't get mad. They didn't get angry. They didn't ask me why. They didn't ask me what happened. They didn't want to make me feel bad. They just immediately inserted in the soonest possible moment, hey, it's okay, and we love you. And the following text message was, hey, you teach everything is perfect. We believe everything is perfect. You were meant to be where you were, and it's okay, and we love you. And here I had created this entire narrative that people will just leave me. And then I get this message which was another way for, I believe, God to show me that I am worthy of just being accepted. I'm worthy of making mistakes. I'm worthy of just being loved, and that it's okay, and that I can put down this false armor that I've created, and I can start walking in my truth. Now, I want to roll this back for a second before I hand it to you, Anniston. I declared I want to walk in my truth, and I was expecting that would mean some relationships would need to fall away, some business partnerships would need to fall away, some decisions I would need to make would have to fall away. But what I didn't imagine was for God so beautifully and divinely to show me that I don't have to lose relationships to be in my truth, that I have to change how I'm looking at my truth. And it was the most beautiful healing experience, because 12 hours after that, I was sitting with you and I had said to you confidentially, but I'm committed to sharing everything on the podcast, that I said, outside of meeting you, I've never, ever, ever had a relationship where somebody has just 100% accepted me for me without any judgment, without any shame, without any blame. And that when I met you, it made sense because you're my person. You should do that for me. But here I have these people that are clients that have become friends that, well, they're not obligated. They're not married to me. They're not my person per se. And so to have them just accept me like that made me realize, wow, you know what? My truth really is me walking, knowing I'm worthy of those quality relationships. And I don't think that all the people in my life have necessarily not looked at me that way. I haven't given them an opportunity to. And all of that changed this weekend, and it's truly powerful.
It was tough to watch, but I knew from like the minute it all started to unfold, I just knew. I had this knowing, like I know this is happening for him. And like I said in the very beginning of the episode, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to make a declaration, knowing that oftentimes what needs to happen is you need to be able to peer into the proverbial mirror of you, like into your own reflection, because we live in a world that is just an outpicturing of what is going on within us. And so all change can only actually be made, real change, real true transformation. And when people talk about changing your life and up-leveling your life, it all starts within. And so when you are able to access a deep wound like you did, which required an experience that would be designed perfectly for you because it hit on so many of those big points, right? It was such an experience that, I mean, you couldn't have crafted it better yourself if you sat down and said, what can I do to really help me reconnect with this childhood wound that I've been carrying around that is outdated and ready to be released? Like, something needs to happen so I can feel that original OG wound, and I can alchemize it, because you can't heal what you can't feel. And so when something is activated within you, it's actually this golden opportunity. But this golden opportunity that's surrounded by a moat of pain. And you've got to be willing to feel the pain in order to get to the gift, to get to the opportunity. And so what I want to say before I share, some of my own experiences here, is that I was really proud of you. I was proud of you. I remember we were sitting up in our room, and every night we have a routine, and we make our tea and we read. This helps our brain start to slow down. And I kept peering over at you as I was reading, and I just saw you sitting with your eyes closed, because you knew there was no way you were going to be able to read. You were just way too much in the emotion. And you must have sat like that for like 30 minutes, just eyes closed. And I could tell you were really just sitting in it. You were sitting in it. You weren't trying to, some people would be like, let's go put on a movie, or I need to watch something funny to distract myself, or would start blaming, right? Oh, well, you should have remembered. I mentioned this to you weeks ago, right? Like, those behaviors are avoidance. And it is a giant waste of time and a giant waste of an opportunity. But don't worry, because the opportunity will come back around, right? And you didn't want this to come back around. You're like, I don't want to experience this again, and I'm ready to release this. So I just want to really ground that for anyone listening, because whatever comes, it's for you, but you need to be present with it. For me, what's coming forward to share is just really what I'm experiencing right now, which is this similar to you. I would say the last 6 months felt just this knowing and this desire to deepen my embodiment of what I'm teaching. I teach embodiment. I help high-performing visionary women who know that they can't continue to approach their work in the same way they have. And so they're ready to lean more into their feminine of their intuition and trusting and in flow and in alignment, which requires moving from all these things I know into I am. I am this. I am this woman who flows. I am this woman who trusts in the divine and who surrenders, but simultaneously takes action and takes inspired action. I am the woman who prioritizes her energy, her frequency, and doesn't act from a place of dysregulation. I am, and all of those things that I teach, and I've spent this year teaching, which I believe wholeheartedly, I feel like I'm being constantly shown where I need to deepen my I amness there. And it's required a lot of shifting and a lot of changing. And, even this morning I woke up and I sensed that there was some stress. There was some dysregulation. My heart rate was a little more elevated. My breathing was shallower. And that indicates, okay, I'm out of coherence. And my mind and my heart and my mind are not talking. And I need to give a little love to my body, to my nervous system. It needs to feel safe. But there are some days where I don't listen and I power through because I let my to-do list dominate, and my to-do list and the things I've committed to doing to become the priority instead of my energy. And then I wind up getting the results of that, which is never aligned and isn't nearly as powerful as when I actually take the time to reconnect to myself, to my truth. And I'm sharing this because I feel like many people can probably relate to this, that right now, I think we're all being shown where we're out of our integrity. And for those of you that are listening, that are teachers, healers, that are leaders, are you walking your talk? Not just walking it and being so good at creating these little quippy little lines for social media and teaching and sharing, but are you it? Are you the teaching? Could someone look at your life and point at you, and you are the walking, talking demonstration of what it looks like to do what you advocate for? Because if you're not, then you're not in your truth. And so for me, my devotion and my commitment is to be in my truth, which means to be a walking, talking version of what I believe is the new template for how we're meant to be showing up, how we're meant to approach our purpose, what true alignment really is. And on the other side of all of that work that sounds like so much fun is, I believe, heaven on earth. I do believe we have access to that, but it doesn't come without completely releasing all of the beliefs, ways of being, the masks, the untruths, the half-truths. You can't enter heaven on earth unless you are fully in your truth. You can't experience it. And that's what we want. I know that's what we intend to experience every day. And so there are many ways that I have gotten the reflection of where I'm not in my truth, but right now that's what's been the most alive and activated for me.
So to bring the conversation really full circle, or to underscore the point, me not walking in my truth was not me doing something out of integrity in the way of I'm doing something against my moral code. It was, I was walking into every scene or situation thinking I have to constantly be perfect and I have to perform to be worthy. And who is Rudi walking into a room when he's not doing that? Who is Anniston when she wakes up every single day and she is rather than trying to be? And who are you when you wake up in your truth, in your knowing, and you're traveling the path less traveled? Except it's the most joyous path you could take because it's going to be met with these exhilarating surprises. And it's going to be one of the most beautiful paths. I had a lot of pain for probably about 10 hours on Saturday. And so we could say, wow, that was very painful. But would you rather have 10 hours of one sleepless night, of a lot of emotion, deep wound being revealed to you? Or would you rather live that for 30 years in micro doses every single day? And so this really is a challenge for you to look at you and for you to look at your life and for you to start to ask yourself, where are you not being integral to you? Who did you come here to be? And what is the life that you ultimately want to live? I want to ask a question of you, Anniston, because you had said a moment ago that you woke up this morning and you had a elevated heart rate and that you were not in coherence, meaning your heart and brain were not speaking to each other. And you said, that you have to do a series of things, to get yourself back there. I would love for you to close out today's episode by just walking people through what is an exercise that you did today just to bring the coherence back into your brain and heart so that they're speaking to each other, so you can decelerate the heartbeat so that you can walk in your truth, walk in your knowing, walk in your purpose.
Great question. Well, Monday mornings in our household are sacred, and we always have an appointment with, I guess you could say, the divine. And Rudi and I, usually our mornings are completely our own. We wake up, I usually am up by 4:30, 4:45, and then until the kids get up at 6:30, I'm in my office with the doors closed. And so this morning, because we were going to be connecting to our spirit team and receiving information, and we love doing this on a Monday, it really sets the tone for the week. I came downstairs, Rudi was meditating, and all I did, I sat on the couch and I just focused on my breath. And I was breathing in for 4, out for 6, in for 4, out for 6. And then I drop into my heart and I put my hand on my heart. And then I first just drop in until I can start to feel an opening, like peace. And then I start thinking about what I'm so grateful for and all the reasons why I have to be excited about the life that I'm living right now and all the things that I love in my life. And as I'm breathing, I'm continuing to breathe. And that always calms me, because the thing is, it's our nervous systems, right? Like, they just don't feel safe in this new way, in this new frequency of being, which requires a lot of trust and certainty. And so really is a retraining. And right now I am absolutely retraining my body to understand that it is safe. I am safe, and that I do not need to control. I do not need to over effort and hustle and all of that. So when I wake up in the morning, some mornings it's not an issue at all. And I'm just 100% aligned. It's not an issue. But in the mornings that it is, for me, sometimes I will need to move before I meditate. If I am really if I feel dysregulated, or maybe I overworked the day before and I still feel a lot of stress in my body and I can't settle. So I love Qigong. So I'll do some Qigong movements. You can go on YouTube. Qigong is really powerful. Sometimes I just will stretch. Sometimes I will dance, and just move, because it truly is, when you can move, identify what emotion you're feeling and then move, your body knows how to release it, but you have to be willing to do what it knows how to do. And all we have to do is look at animals to see how they release emotion. They shake it off, and we need to quite literally shake it off, or walk it off, or stretch it out. And so I love breath work and I love movement. Those two things for me can bring me back into regulation more than anything. But also sometimes it's just grabbing my journal and just proving the fear wrong. I have never, not once, and Rudi, I know we talk about this a lot, like I've never not lived in overflow. Does that mean I've always been rich or well? No, but I've always had a meal. I've always had a roof over my head. And for that, I realize I am very blessed. And yet, when I am in a stage of in the unknown, meaning I feel like I can't see what's coming, there is no like physical representation of security that we all love to look for. Like, okay, well, we know we're going to be okay because of this, or we know we're going to be okay because of this. Well, Rudi and I right now are really being initiated into safety in the unknown. And all the things we used to point to and say, well, we have that, so that's fine. Like, we're both entrepreneurs. There are no guarantees. And even if you are a W-2 employee and you have a real secure job, well, I hate to break it to you, it's not secure either. Nothing is, because everything is meant to change and grow and expand. We set a big goal this year. Like, I'm saying a massive financial goal, and not just financial, more so impact, because we like to set goals around impact, and everything has changed. So when we say, be careful what you declare, what we're saying is, don't ask for something that you've never had before and expect everything to stay the same, because if everything stays the same, you're going to continue to get exactly what you've always gotten. Something needs to change. And sometimes at first, it's going to look like things are being taken away. Things are drying up. I don't know, avenues that were revenue before all of a sudden aren't anymore. And your mind might start telling you the story that things are turning for the worse. You know, the other shoe is going to drop. But in all actuality, it's all falling together. And that space is being created for what will help you reach that goal or that next level to move in. And thankfully, we've had enough of these experiences and gone through these seasons of our life that we know this, but it doesn't mean that our minds and our bodies don't need to be expanded and regulated along with this expansion.
What a great way to end the episode today. Anytime you make a declaration, the universe is going to bend a knee. I love to use that analogy. And you're going to be met with uncertainty because you're going to experience something that you've never experienced, because you're creating something you've never created. And the time between when you make the declaration and you get it, you're in the transition period. And that is the walking through the doorway, the opening of the portal. That is the unknown. And so it's about declaring your worthiness to have and to be something that you haven't had, and believing in your worthiness to be it. Be it now, walk and talk and act as that version of yourself. Use the tools, some of which you've just beautifully received on the episode today, of how you can regulate yourself in order to be able to do that. And then, I was going to say something else, but what landed for me is trust in the process. Every day, that whatever you're going through, when I sat for what was probably 30 to 40 minutes with my eyes closed, I actually allowed myself to feel the pain of that moment, feeling, why do I feel so scared? Why do I feel like my clients are going to leave? Why do I feel like I've disappointed them? Why do I feel like I've disappointed myself? Why do I feel like I'm not worthy in this moment? I allowed those feelings. Old Rudi would have gone downstairs and had a whiskey. Well, I don't drink anymore. So I had to sit with the feeling. And to sit with the feeling, I just sat there and said, I'm so grateful for the lesson. I'm grateful for the lesson. What do I need to learn? And I allowed the lesson to become a teacher. And it changed my association with the lesson. And I still had a long night. I still lay awake thinking about it, and I still lay there processing, but it was one of the most beautiful, beautiful gifts. And I still owned the mistake, and I still had the clearing conversation with my clients, and my clients are still the most incredible human beings, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And I am committing one more time to only ever walk in my truth. And my goal and intention for you is that you declare the same for yourself today. And that when the shifts come, that you're ready for them. You tackle them one by one, because that is the fast route to get to heaven on earth. We love you so very much. Thank you for joining us on the InPowered Life Podcast. Please share this message with somebody that you know needs to hear this message. And if you haven't yet done so, it would mean the world to me if you would rate and review the podcast. It takes 2 seconds, but it helps me share and spread this incredible message. Thank you so much. We'll catch you in the next episode. We love you. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.